Hello and welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the conclusion of my inaugural Arcade Ace in a Day competition. That's right, today we're going to be taking a look at the first place winner and therefore the overall winner of the competition for 1000 Golden Eagles. My name's TX141, also known as Paul, and before we go any further, let us take a look one last time at the judgment criteria for the competition. Starting with Criterion 1. I was looking for a player who knew the strengths and limitations of their aircraft and enacted them in the gameplay. For example, if you were flying an Illusion 2, a plane which turns rather well in the arcade mode of War Thunder, I was looking for you to use it in a more turn fight scenario and also abuse the overall durability of the aircraft to great effect, whilst implementing the lethal firepower to take out opponents either in head-ons or through turn fights. Criterion 2. I was looking for a player who was always in control of the situation where permitted, i.e. being very aware of their surroundings by continually looking around and avoiding being bounced by opponents who were flying from above. And Criterion 3. I was looking for a player who played naturally. I was not looking for a show-off. I was only interested in seeing 5 or more kills for 0 deaths. I was not concerned with the number of assists, Punisher or Hercules medals obtained. I just waited to see how well you would execute your targets during the course of the gameplay that you submitted. And so have our criterion recapped, let us take a look at our first place entry. Ergo, ladies and gentlemen, coming in first place for 1000 Golden Eagles, we have Sir Roland in his F2A-3 Buffalo. This gameplay, taken from the airfield domination map Pelileo, much like the second place entry, is going to see Sir Roland fulfill all 3 judgment criteria and hence the reason for being chosen for first place. For the uninitiated, the F2A-3 Buffalo is the alternative in the early American fighter line by comparison with the P-36 Hawk. Whereby, if we compare the F2A-3 at battle rating 2.3 with the P-36C at battle rating of 2.0, we can see that whilst the P-36C has the better turn circle and perhaps a slightly better acceleration to its high top speed, the Buffalo has a similar high top speed, yet a slightly better climb rate, and whilst its turn circle is wider, it manages to maintain its decent roll rate up to a higher speed. At roughly 400 km an hour, you already feel the repercussions of the P-36 Hawk's roll rate becoming slower and slower. Meanwhile, the Buffalo, this kicks in at roughly 550 km an hour in earnest, and this is the difference between the 2 aircraft. Additionally, thanks to the fact that the Buffalo is armed with 4 50 caliber machine guns, 2 in the nose, 2 in the wings, that makes this plane an optimised energy fighter for its battle rating in my opinion. Meanwhile, the Hawk is more of a turn fighter which can intermittently act as an energy fighter whereby your opponents are flying in straight lines and not trying to turn underneath your pass. Nonetheless, with our quick overview of the difference between this plane and the Hawk discussed, let us talk about Roland's gameplay here. Straight away, he has opted to use the climb rate of the Buffalo to get to an altitude of roughly 2,800 to 3,000 metres. There is a MiG-315 on the other side of this cloud layer, which you can see Roland's already shown decent awareness of, and zooming in to take a good approach on whether the MiG-315 is going towards him, and it is in actuality. He's keeping his awareness high in order to try and catch the MiG-315 in the clouds. As you can see here, Roland employs a very smart tactic. Wobbling on the rudder twice, this makes it appear as though Roland is not going to go towards the MiG-315 or come at a different angle rather than head on. And this is going to save Roland very shortly, as the MiG-315 is coming directly towards him, as you can see. And if he had not performed those rudder weaves very early on, the 2 planes could have either crashed or the MiG-315 may have had the upper hand. Employing the Buffalo in the vertical here, Roland is able to get onto the tail of the MiG-315, which has made a very long and elongated turn. Unfortunately, he does not manage to achieve any critical hits, although his rounds go in and damage the fuel tank in the MiG-315, and his follow-up burst is just shy of the target. Yet, we can forgive that, simply because the 2 planes have had to engage each other out of complete earnest surprise, and so the MiG-315 is now running for it, with Roland having the upper hand. And I have to give credit to this straight away, simply because cloud fighting is a whole new theatre of operation on its own, and one of the more tricky ones in War Thunder's arcade mode. Nonetheless, with the MiG-315 dispatched down to lower altitudes now and suffering from a minor fuel leak it would seem, Sir Roland has achieved altitude supremacy, and can now begin to attack any target at will. Building up his speed, we can see here that he retains some semblance of control of the aircraft, which again by comparison with a P-36 Hawk would not be available at this point. Cutting the engine slightly here, we can see that he's going to go for the MiG-3 once again, which is currently in the midst of a number of friendly fighters and enemy fighters in an ensuing furball. Yet, wanting that first kill to be specifically that MiG-315, Sir Roland puts another burst in. Yet this time, I believe he manages to achieve 1 or 2 hits, but just not enough. Maybe a server side discrepancy or some poor accuracy. Yet as we're about to see, we can forgive that. Because, keeping eyes open and knowing there's no targets coming in on his tail, he continues his pursuit. And sees a Folgore coming directly towards him, snap rolling out the way and setting the MC202 on fire, and then taking out the MiG-315 from earlier for his first and second kills. An A5M4 then comes directly towards him. He snap rolls to the side to dodge the majority of the fire, achieving his third kill, and then does a significant amount of damage to this Hurricane Mark 1. Therefore we've just seen a triple kill, and continuing the fight with great awareness behind him, Sir Roland has realised that he may have an enemy fighter coming onto his tail, and so he does not want to encroach upon the Hurricane Mark 1 once again. And with the enemy patrol boats now shooting at him, he decides to bob and weave slightly in order to avoid any fire from their machine guns. So straight away, whilst the opening burst on the MiG-315 was not too successful, nor was the secondary or the tertiary ones, in the end Sir Roland bided his time and made sure to use the overall energetic nature of his Buffalo to good effect, not just picking up the 1 kill, but a whole succession of 3 kills instead. Yet this is only the beginning. Currently, Roland is looking for another target, and it comes in the form of what is going to be another MiG-315, setting it on fire coming from directly above, and this fire is going to take out the MiG-315 for his 4th kill. We can see there he's implementing the overall energetic nature of the Buffalo to good effect once more, and the decent firepower, both in the form of the armour-piercing incendiary rounds, and just the fact you've got the burst mass to do significant damage to planes that have very little to no armour at the battle rating of 2.3. Now picking on an enemy fighter that's going for the friendly boats, making the most of an opportunity presented to him. We can see here Messerschmitt 19 ML3 is going to take a good pasting of rounds, ending up with the pilot being killed for Sir Roland's ace. And now breaking away, checking behind once again, we can see good awareness being in tandem with great control of the situation and making the most of opportunities presented and creating opportunities of his own. He had no need to go after that ML3, there was a friendly fighter on the tail of it, but he realised that the friendly fighter would not be able to dispatch the ML3 as quickly as he would be able to with his 50 cows. Breaking away from that theatre of operation in order to avoid being enticed into a furball, something which the Buffalo does not handle too well, Roland is now going to gain a little bit more energy and altitude and then bank around over towards B, the friendly airfield which has been neutralised by enemy planes. And here we're going to see some more boom and zoom style of play, which Sir Roland knows to a perfect point. We see an enemy fighter gradually grazing its way just above the airfield. It's an I-16 Type 5, and it's dispatched very quickly at a low energy state by Roland for a 6th kill. Breaking up once again, for a sharp turn, we can see that there's another enemy fighter in the distance, but it's been taken out by friendly Hurricane. It was an MC200 for those who are interested. And once again, Roland is using his great awareness in order to keep an eye on the enemy fighters over the airfield and make sure they're interested in the targets down low and not him specifically. Seeing another enemy fighter going in for the capture here. So Roland picks it out, keeping an eye on the fighters around to make sure that he can't be taken out. There's a Ki-43 Mark II, and his first burst doesn't really hit the target, so he comes around, using the decent turn with high speed in order to put some more rounds into the Ki-43 and achieve the 7th kill. Breaking up with the airfield recaptured by his teammates, we're seeing already 7 kills in the bag in the space of roughly 5 minutes. That's quite a tally, and doing it without getting hit as well, bar a couple of light machine gun rounds from the A5M4 in that earlier head-on engagement. Coming around once again, looking for a next pass, a Blenheim Mark IV comes into Roland's path, and he decides not to opt for the head-on but fly underneath. I mean, it's an easy pilot kill for Roland, making the most of the opportunity presented to him and causing the Blenheim to chicken out partially. Of course, if he had not managed to get that kill, the Blenheim would have been a much harder target. Then seeing a Gladiator flying down very low over the airfield, perhaps going for a capture, Roland picks up his 9th kill, and breaking around once again, because every time he's gone for the kills, he's looked around for the enemy fighters and post-kill as well, noticing there's not enough enemy fighters in the vicinity to pose a threat, and therefore he can make the sharp climb turns and compromise his energy state to come around for a successive pass if needs be. Here we can see that he opts to stay away from going back in for another pass because there's at least one, if not two more enemy fighters, one that he's noticed coming up towards him, on their way. And this means that if he was going for another energetic pass, it might compromise his position and also his plane's life. Breaking around here, we can see the enemy fighters have been enticed into another furball engagement. And Roland decides to dive down towards the airfield before breaking onto this seminal furball because he's trying to pick out a target and not give away his intentions. It's another I-16 Type 18 here. And he achieves a critical hit on the engine. Breaking back up, making sure not to sharp turn, we can see the Type 18 is heading in towards the airfield, capturing it gradually. So whilst Roland has achieved a critical hit here, it was not enough. Yet, he did the right thing at the time in my opinion, and that I-16 has just crashed into the ground for Roland's double ace. A Hurricane flies underneath, yet Roland quickly bursts a load of ammunition into a Hurricane Mark II that is also landing, achieving a number of hits and even getting the shoot down on the plane. My apologies, it was the Hurricane Mark I he first fired at. He's coming around for the successive pass on the Hurricane Mark IIB here, making sure to use great control of the responsive control surfaces of the F2A-3 to avoid hitting the ground and providing ample ground clearance coming out of each pass. Picks off a D3A1 which happens to pass in his way over the airfield, but that's a little bit of luck and opportunity at its finest. And yet he already has 12 kills in the bag and is about to cement it with his final 13th kill. I believe it's an enemy Heinkel 112 B0, and this is completely oblivious to Roland's existence. Making a couple of small jinks in gun defence, Roland very quickly forces it into a turn and achieves a critical hit to the tail control before killing the pilot for his 13th and final kill. In my opinion, that's quite a score, even for a low battle rating. And so very shortly with the game over, let us take a look at the stat screens and proceed to give a quick and brief analysis of the three criterion. Whew, what a game! Nonetheless, we have to provide some post-game analysis in order to understand the positives and where Sir Roland may be able to improve his game even further, despite this being one of the finest F2A-3 Buffalo games I have seen to date. Starting with Criterion 1, a player who knows the strengths and limitations of their aircraft. Sir Roland clearly understands the role of the F2A-3 as more of an energy fighter rather than a turn fighter. The only main turn fighter engagement during the course of the entire gameplay was the initial engagement with the MiG-315 up in the cloud layer at roughly 2,700 meters altitude. Sir Roland quickly outturned the MiG-315 on the first pass, and by the second pass he was starting to feel the effects of the poor turn circle of the F2A. Fortunately, the MiG-315 made a break for it, because Sir Roland had put the bullets in that first turn to great effect to puncture the fuel tank of the MiG-315. And so, for the rest of the game, we saw elongated boom and zoom passes, with some occasional and rather sharp, knife-style boom and zoom passes, what I would call short-range ones, made over very short distances and to take out multiple targets, if not individual targets, over say the airfield at B, or the planes attacking the patrol boats, or in the midst of a furball around friendly territory. In all these circumstances, Sir Roland used the overall firepower of the F2A-3, which is very notable at its battle rating, to great effect, and at the same time made sure to implement fully the high-speed control of the F2A by comparison with some of its battle rating counterparts. This led to the huge succession of kills, and the final kills, especially on that Heinkel 112B0 at the end, were due to the fact that he realised the high top speed of the Buffalo coming out of a dive, and the fact that it is able to maintain a higher top speed by comparison with its opponents. And this is what enabled him in some situations to keep up with the competition and swiftly dispatch them. Criterion 2. A player who is in complete control and employs full awareness. Sir Roland ticks all the boxes here. Throughout the game, he was always aware of the fighters around him. He picked up on the MiG-315 at the start and knew that the MiG-315 had the same intentions of himself with that rudder weave in the cloud layer when the two planes could not see each other. Additionally, he was always aware of the fact that there could be an enemy fighter coming after him once he'd made a boom and zoom pass, and he was always checking behind, either whilst making a sharp turn or prior to making the sharp turn, in order to make sure he did not sacrifice too much energy in case he was being pursued. And this as a result meant that he could leave every engagement pretty much unscathed, bar the head-on engagement the A5M4 towards the midst of the game. Yet we will come on to this very shortly in Criterion 3. Additionally, we saw Sir Rowland make opportunities for himself. He never had to engage some of the planes in the midst of the furball over the patrol boats, as they were being engaged by friendly fighters. But Sir Rowland quickly picked up on the fact that these planes were not going to be shot down as quickly as his 450 cows could do so. And so, he picked up these kills not in a kill-steal fashion, but by knowing the strengths of the plane from Criterion 1, and also the fact there was an opportunity at hand to end the engagement much more quickly than it would have been ended. And finally, Criterion 3. Executed targets with aplomb, natural play, and not trying to show off. Sir Rowland ticked all these boxes to 100% within the Criterion, simply because when we review every engagement, well really the MiG-315 engagement at the start, we can sum up this gameplay and this Criterion in one fell swoop. I know what I am doing, you better be prepared for me. Sir Rowland made up his decisions well before he entered the firing range of any target, and this is personified in that MiG-315 engagement, whereby before the two planes began to lose sight of each other in the cloud layer, he made a small number of rudder adjustments to give off the impression to the MiG-315 pilot that he was not trying to go for the direct head-on. This most likely enticed the MiG-315 to just go straight towards the target, and provided the MiG-315 with comeuppance when Sir Rowland managed to manoeuvre into a position behind the MiG-315 following the initial turn. This shows the sign of a good player, one who is not destined to go into head-to-head and take maximum damage while dishing it out just as good, but instead dodging the initial pass and then dealing maximum effective damage in a burst or two. Yet, even when the second burst on target was inaccurate, this is reflected in some of the boom and zoom passes later in the game. Sir Rowland's accuracy was slightly off to some respects. However, in most cases, patience was a virtue for Sir Rowland. Instead of continuing to indiscriminately fire rounds into the target, he cooled down, and where targets had energy and therefore could weave out the way of incoming fire, he made sure to open fire at roughly half a kilometre or less, the most ideal range for the armament of the F2A-3 Buffalo due to its rather non-discrete distribution in both the nose and the wings by comparison with planes with armament in the wings or just the nose. Additionally, for planes in a lower energy state, especially when they were trying to land over the airfield at B, Sir Rowland decided to open fire at longer distances because he had the ability to track his rounds onto target much more efficiently by comparison with a plane that is jinking about all over your screen. This combination meant that when targets had greater energy, he was able to creep up on them, and this is personified in that final kill on the Heinkel 112 B0, whereby the B0 only found out Sir Rowland was coming when it lost its tail control. At the same time, firing at longer ranges meant that he could clasp some kills which otherwise would not have been achieved simply because he knew where to place his shots where it mattered. And that is why this criterion is fulfilled to 100%, because he knew when to fire and when not to fire, even when his accuracy, either server side or on person side, was off slightly. However, I would like to make one suggestion for perhaps an improvement to the playstyle employed here, and one which may have allowed Sir Rowland to even get a 14th or a 15th kill. It is in terms of the boom and zoom style of play employed towards the end of the game as the furball encroached over Airfield B. The majority of the latter boom and zoom passes that Sir Rowland employed were short distance and very sharp, as we saw with the kill on the Hurricane Mark I followed by the D3A1. These were done in very quick succession but in a very short space of time, and I would say just as much as Sir Rowland was accurate and on target with the D3A1, that plane was there by surprise, and Sir Rowland had to react to this plane being there rather than realise it was there in the first place. Of course I could be wrong about this. To avoid something like that occurring, personally I would employ a more extended boom and zoom pass, so get a little bit more distance and come in on a shallow dive, so because you can build up your speed and therefore engage the situation at your choosing. You know which targets are there, and you know how long you have to fire on your opponents before you have to switch to a different target as your opponent flies out of your firing line. By comparison with these shorter passes, whereby you have to really react to what's presented to you at the given time and circumstance. Yet, this is more of a difference of playstyle between myself and Sir Rowland, and if you are watching this, Rowland, I am not criticising your gameplay in any extent whatsoever here. It was an absolutely brilliant gameplay, and so congratulations on coming first in the competition. At the same time, for you, the prospective viewer, if you feel I've not criticised Sir Rowland harsh enough here, or you've got a difference of opinion, why not leave a comment in the comments section below, as it's always good to hear the thoughts of other players of War Thunder. Nonetheless, if you have enjoyed the video, ladies and gentlemen, why not leave a like, comment or subscribe for future War Thunder videos on my channel. And at the same time, I'd like to quickly point out to any of you who have submitted one of your entries via a YouTube video for this competition, please do not remove the video. I intend to bring something on Christmas Day which will incorporate all those who entered the competition, and hopefully it will make sure that all of your entries get noticed. Nonetheless, in the meantime, take care and good luck in the skies.